We take make and build skyscrapers. You know what? My faith up, switch your heart, the face. People know why I kill the most other side. Survival of. All right.
Yes, sir, brothers and sisters. Once again, we're back. Yes. Our second segment of the Disciples. We're here. We have with us our beloved brother and friend who is no stranger to the Disciples Show. All politics are local. I don't know of a better brother that we can have to talk about such a timely and profound issue, black men and education. Brother John, please reintroduce yourself. I know everybody out there know you. You're no stranger, but
hey, man, it's an honor to be here. Really an honor to be here on the Disciples. And your topic is really important. There is a low number of black male educators in our system, and that should be no surprise because we have low numbers of black males at high levels within our education system. Like if we look at honors programs, when we look at college attendance, when we look at all of these figures, black males continually get there in the lowest numbers. And I don't think it's an accident. I think that we really have to recognize the systemic ways our society, our school systems, right? Like prey on black men, like discourage them at every point, especially from high achievement. It's no coincidence that in many black colleges, many historically black universities, the ratio between black women to black men is like, at least 5-1. In Hampton back in the day, it was like 14-1. You knew there was one male for every 14 women that were in college. So getting black men inside of education, there have been a series of studies that have been released that talked about the importance of having black men in education, the importance of having black male educators. And, and in terms of not just as a role model for other black males, but for apparently, right, black males are good for everybody in education, in terms of the way that we treat people. So, and we all have our own stories, right? I'll get back to y'all, but as a story I want to tell about me in education that I think that is instructive and probably can shed a light on just some of the pressures that are on black males by a larger society.
Yes, sir. Well, I think those of us who have matriculated through this educational system can attest to that. I had a very great sixth grade black male teacher, but he was the only black male teacher that was there. He followed us 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, but I know the profound impact that he had on me. He introduced me to history, things that were outside of the curriculum that he was given to give to us, and he had a profound effect on me and many of the young black males in my class and females. So I definitely know the importance and the value of having black men in education, seeing individuals who look like you. A study was done, a report was released from KIPP, and they talked about how since 2014, ethnic and racial minorities make up more than half of the student population in U.S. public schools, yet about 80% of teachers are white, and 77% of them are females, and people of color make up about 20% of teachers. A mere 2% are black men. So they say that there's only 2% black men in education. Pastor Ali, what are your thoughts on
that? It's definitely needed. I think I want to give a shout out to Bishop Walter Scott Thomas Sr., who was Elijah Cummings' pastor. And the great influence he had on my life as a young minister. He would take the time out to mentor me.
Yes,
he's
sir.
Highly educated, so what you're saying is very appropriate. He's educated. He's a brother. My church is even named after his church. That to give legacy to the impact he had on my life. When you talk about my first black teacher, I was in the 10th grade.
Wow.
He taught black history. So all of my teachers, male-wise, was all white females or white males. And I think now our kids need positive. They need to see somebody that takes the time now, go matriculate, and then come back to the hood to make sure they can come up out of it too.
That Pastor Roundtree.
That's amazing. I remember every school teacher I had, and from kindergarten through the third grade was African American.
Mm.
Fourth grade was Caucasian. Fifth grade, I just buried my fifth grade teacher, Miss
Wow.
Burnell White, last week. Fifth grade, sixth grade, seventh grade, eighth grade, all African American. I went to
Wow.
Quitman Street Elementary School. The African American teachers I had were rooted in our community. B.F. Johnson, which is the pastor at Metropolitan Baptist Church. His son worked at West Kenny. I went there for a year, but elementary, I was in Quitman. His wife was my sixth grade teacher. I actually had an African American teacher that was a female. Her name was Gwen Belk, and she was so upset with the curriculum that there was no African American studies in the school that she went and challenged the school and said, okay, listen, I'll teach what you want, but I need a book to teach these children because they don't look like all the folks in these books.
Right.
You know, we were learning that George Washington chopped down a cherry tree and never told a lie. You know, and the only
Black
African American,
Sambo.
right? And the only African American that was in the book was Christmas Addict. She said, no, we got to do better than this. We ended up reading the Before the Mayflower. She had to get all of these things approved. So it was a little bit different for me.
How many males did you have?
There were okay, so I'd say about 6. A
Wow.
gym teacher was a male. Yeah.
I forgot about
Outside
Mr.
of public education.
I forgot about Mr. McCurtis. He was my homeroom teacher in 8th grade. And he followed us from 7th Avenue to Hillside Avenue. But let me just reiterate this because, let me ask this question, Austin. Is it because of the lack of male black teachers that the Olmsted Act has been held up?
I don't think that I think those are possibly two different things.
Mm-hmm.
It might be, right? Because the Olmsted Act, in terms of like the teaching of history, which is very important, it may be, but I think that it may be for the same reason why I think the most important reason for having more black male teachers is that there's implicit bias.
Yeah.
And there's implicit bias in education.
Yeah.
And there's implicit bias against black males, sometimes, like a lot from white teachers, sometimes even from black female teachers who have low expectations
Yes.
of their black males.
Yes.
And I think that when you're looking at like the issues of implicit bias, I think many black males have stories of education where they could have absolutely been discouraged. I remember my
Absolutely.
4th grade, I was in 4th grade.
Absolutely.
I was put in the second reading group. I didn't know why, right? I was at home. My dad was like, "What's wrong?" And I was like, "I don't know," right? It could have ended that way, but he pushed. He was like, "Well, what's wrong?" I was like, "Well, I'm in the second reading group." And he was like, "Well, I mean, are you having trouble reading?" I said, "I don't think so." But in my head, I thought, well,
Something's
maybe
wrong.
something's wrong. The teacher put me in the second reading group, then I might not be able to read well, right? So my father comes to school and he's like, well, my kid having problems, right? And the teacher said, basically that he's a little arrogant, and the word she used was, he did not know his place.
Whoa.
And my father, he went in, right? Like, now I didn't know about this because they were outside the classroom. And he was like, "Is my son? I'm the one who lets him know his places. If he can read,
Right.
You know, like all that stuff."
Right, yes,
I
sir.
come in, all of a sudden, I'm in the first reading group. But here's the thing, and here's what I didn't notice until years later, until my father told me the story. All the kids in the second reading group were black. When I went from the second reading group to the first reading group, I was the only black kid in the first reading group. I was taken from the first reading group, put in the second reading group when I went back up. And I didn't notice until years later. I look back at it and was like, yo, all the black kids were in the second reading group. I was like Jackie Robinson going back up in a reading group. And this is 4th grade.
Yes,
right?
sir.
So this is 4th grade. You know, I didn't know enough to make that connection. But every black male I know has some experience where some teacher, sometimes white, sometimes black, be telling them, you're not smart enough. You're not good enough.
So that I didn't see, and that's amazing. You asked me about the African American males that I had. My principal was African American at some point, and the African American males were not necessarily my teacher, except for my gym teacher. The majority of my teachers were African American women, which is still good for us as sisters, because there was a challenge for me in reading. I was having problems with the reading class I was in 3rd grade, and they wanted to move me up a complete grade in all my classes. And my mother came to school and said, no. She said, no, we're not going to set her up for failure because she's not excelling in math. She's not excelling You say she's excelling in reading, we'll accept you, we'll move her up. So I ended up going to the 4th grade for reading while I was in the 3rd grade. I was just sent to another class. But it was because an African American teacher knew, but the school administration said, oh no, her grades are good, we're just going to move her a grade. Mother said, no, you're not doing that. We're not going to do that, because a lot of times the decisions they make, whether it be African American or Caucasian, determines our destiny as we move forward. And it can either make us or break us. In your case, your father came forward and said, what's going on? But think of the kids that this happened to in that 2nd reading class that never had a parent to come and address that 2nd reading class situation.
Or just trust to the teacher,
a black father.
Yes, exactly.
There's so many
they trusted what he said was key. They trusted the teacher.
Father, right? I mean, we know a lot of times it's a mistake, but these schools are like warehouses for us. We just drop our children off, and we go to work and we go on with our business.
And we entrust our children for hours.
We're not as mindful as we should be as it relates to who our children is in the hands of.
That's right.
So as parents, we got to be more mindful, because there are a lot of spirit-killing teachers out there. Right. Many of us saw Malcolm X movie, read his autobiography, and he talked about a spirit-killing teacher that he was introduced to. So as Brother John said, you talk to the average black man, he can share with you a story of a spirit-killing teacher that he encountered that broke their spirit. As it relates to education and wanting to go to school restored.
Yeah, and he had a father that made sure he was going to restore some things.
That's right. So,
I mean, I literally was having issues thinking, well, maybe I can't read. Maybe I'm not smart, right? And this 4th grade. And think how devastating that is, right? Like you have kids all over who can't do that, right? And so when we're looking at the issue of black males and gender in terms of an education, we can't overestimate how important it is in order to have black male teachers. Black women do well in school. Like all the statistics, right? Like black women are some of the most educated of our population. Some of the most educated population as a whole in the United States, right? And that's just true, right? Black women do school well. And I think a lot of it is the deliberate targeting and implicit bias that exists toward black males. And we're not going to get any other way around it unless we just say it's not just a matter of having black male role models. It's having people to act against, right? Like push back on the attacks that we know exist against black males.
That's right. Thank you so much, Brother John. Our time is up.
It is.
Pastor Roundtree, please give us some good news. Send us off the air with some good news.
Well, the good news is that we had 900 people, and you spoke and prayed and said some exciting things on last Thursday. We had 900 faith-based leaders in our Newark Interfaith Breakfast.
That was awesome.
And I'm telling you, when Minister Abdul Haq got up to that microphone, he said, my prayer is this. And he started rolling the scriptures. And every pastor and preacher, we had the president of the General Baptist Convention, Dr. Lester W. Taylor, and we had the Cardinal as our speaker from the Archdiocese, Cardinal Tobin. And they were all like this with their mouths, because this man is such a profound individual. I want to thank all the faith. I'm talking to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's representative, Brother Ed Riley. I'm excited. We have so many things going on. The mayor will be doing his annual turkey giveaway on November 25th at JFK. You are to call 973-733-6400 before November 25th. The deadline is November 8th to register for a turkey. And on November 26th, once again, the Newark Interfaith Alliance will be partnering with Applebee's. And we will be feeding the least of these, along with some of these that are not in challenged situations. We don't want to sit with folks that I've noticed they might have a stench, or that might not be like us, or dress like us, or look like us. But God says, Jesus says in his words, when I was hungry, you fed me, when I was thirsty, and many of you, then he poses the questions to his disciples, or the disciples pose the question to him, when have I done this unto you? I don't use the word master. I just say Jesus.
That's right.
And,
You
and
hate
he-
that word.
oh,
man.
that is not our word. We know why that word was put in there, but that's another conversation. And he says, when you've done it to the least of these, you've done it unto me. So I bring them together, and we eat together. And of course, she'll be coming to bring forth some words for those.
Now,
folks
didn't
that
Adam get in
take
trouble for eating that apple? You can take us to apple. Come on now.
Watch this.
No, I'm just
Adam should have been thinking.
Let me,
Go ahead, girl, you got it on that.
We gotta wrap this up.
let me say this. As we reflected on education, let me give a shout out back to the 70s, why I have a love for reading. Muhammad Speaks,
Ooh,
Talk about that, Muhammad.
Howard Street, Nathan
oh,
Wow.
movie.
African American paper in Amsterdam.
Amsterdam.
These were black
That's right.
publications.
I threw that
Yes,
Chicago
they were.
Defender in there
That's
too.
That's right. That's right.
And what it was about do for self. That's always stuck with me.
That's
And
right.
I have a love for reading.
Brother Ed has some of
Self-preservation.
the Muhammad Speaks. He carries
You got
of
some
those.
Muhammad Speaks. Where
He
you at,
carries some
brother
of those,
Ed?
Brother Ed.
We so excited about you. Oh my
And with
God.
that,
Yeah,
let
right.
me read.
So, brothers and sisters,
Can
once
we just
again,
thank
thank you.
Baraka?
Yeah, thank you
Can we-
for another lovely
can
show.
we-
We thank our mayor, Rashid
Thank you.
Barak. I believe he had the all women's meeting
Yes,
tonight
last night.
at City Hall
Last
last
night,
last
yes.
night. So we thank him for the men's meeting and women's meetings, the opportunity that he's given for the residents in the city of North New Jersey
Yeah.
to be active participants as it relates to these contracts, gaining some gainful employment, doing for themselves. John, we thank you for your insight as it relates to black males and education. This Sunday, brothers and sisters, please join us at 170 Littleton Avenue. We'll be taking on a timely subject
Yes.
entitled The Father Absence Crisis in America. So please come be with us. Doors open at 10:30. Meeting starts at 11 o'clock a.m. We look forward to seeing you all. Pastor Roundtree.
One more thing, we just want to continue to send condolences to the family of Elijah Cummings.
That's right,
Of course, he
Elijah
was
Cummings.
funeralized yesterday, Thursday, Friday, today.
So
He
we
lied
send,
in state yesterday.
that's right. Blessings
And
for
yes,
him and
blessings
his
for his
family,
family,
long-standing
Advocate,
congressman,
yes,
Baltimore. We thank
yes.
him and his family. I believe
Yes.
his wife is running for the seat.
For the seat, yes,
So
she is.
we pray that God
Yes,
bless her and keep
yes.
her. Once again, thank you all. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum. Peace be unto you. Have a great night. Thank you.
God bless you. Peace.
Gonna take us to Applebee's. You know.